Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 13.32, The Observers and the Observed. We're so glad to be back.
OMG, the observers and the observed. Who up observing the observers?
I'm looking at you right now.
Oh.
You're in my fucking Petri dish.
Last time? You mean Petri dish?
That's what I said.
Guy who... well, I'm not going to be mean to you. Welcome back to Aetheral Space.
Maybe you took a blow to the head. Maybe you misheard.
Ooh, I'm trying so hard not to be mean to you right now.
Really?
Last time on Aetheral Space, Dragon narrowly survived being fucking taken over by the Forest of Sin. You really had me going there. Apparently I disappointed the viewers, though, because I was like, oh, this chapter's... All I said was, like, this next chapter is really good. And then everyone was like, oh, that was, like, what I expected.
Yeah, they thought Gojo was going to show up.
Yeah, for real. But I'm not going to say dick about Aetheral Space anymore. People can just figure it out themselves when it comes out. This one, though, surely it'll bang, right?
Surely.
Sure. Alright, without further ado, let's jump right in.
Yeah.
It crawled. The creature had been blown into the wind when Paradise Karen's body had been destroyed by the tower, and so it had only barely survived. While the special officers assigned to security for the arena had brought down the rampaging Arcana automatic, the creature had rested on the floor, indistinguishable from the rest of the soot that littered the battlefield. I see now it says special officers. I thought at first it was just like generic security guards. I'm like, how? How? The world's strongest security guards holding down the tower.
The one from that fucking RPG session we just had.
Yeah. Only when it was confident that no eyes were upon it did it move. Any arachnophobe would surely have been horrified to see the creature. It crawled across the ground, a mixture between a tarantula and a centipede, with an ominous stinger swaying at the end of a tail like that of a scorpion. Winding its way through the debris, it made its way out of the arena. This route was pre-programmed, burnt into the creature's very blood. It could no more ignore the impulse to go this way than it could choose to stop breathing. It crawled through the tunnels of the arena of the Absolute, maneuvered through a nearly invisible crack in the wall, and finally rested in the palm of the King of Darkstar, Nyane. The Skirrent smiled benevolently down at his creation, in this dark maintenance room in the shadows of glory. Judging from the rust and dust, nobody had used this room in years. It was only in such places that infestations like this could occur. Handling the creature with care, Nyane lifted it up, placing it against the back of his neck, and, as an automatic impulse, the creature stabbed its stinger down into the base of Nyane's spine. Any discomfort was momentary. For a brief instant, Nyane's eyes flicked around rapidly, as if he were dreaming with them open. Then his smile softened, and he tore the creature from his flesh. Holding it in his hand again, he considered things. He had just recovered the memories from his shadow self, the one that had been embedded into this creature and dispatched to monitor Paradise Karen. Dragon Hatrian had enacted a mental battle, and so that shadow self had been able to infiltrate that collective mindscape. What a fortuitous coincidence. Nyane could scarcely believe his luck. He now knew for certain the location of his ultimate target. The knowledge he'd gleaned from the encounter would surely come in handy, but now the time for patience had returned. He had no way to act on this information until the UAP trader had finished their part in all this. Until then, best to wait and watch. And remind you. There was a flash of black aether, and the insect vanished from Nyane's hand, shredded out of existence. Best to recover the material. He disliked waste. He did not, however, hate it. He endeavored never to hate, nor to love. Strong sentiment like that created frustration and doubt in the heart. With that in mind, the strongest emotion Nyane would normally permit himself in this situation was the smallest sliver of pleasure. That was how he strove to conduct himself. However, he'd seen her. Up there in one of the observation booths, looking down at the dawn contest like she had so many times before. The timeless woman come to interfere with him again. The shepherdess. The one person in this world that Nyane truly despised. She sat, legs crossed, chin resting on her palm. She sat in her observation booth on high and observed. The shepherdess's eyes narrowed as she watched the special officers finally bring the tower down, nano-automatic spilling out of its chassis before a final sandstorm wiped them from existence. After Dragon Hadrian had killed Paradise Karen. That is kind of fucked up that someone can just bring that in and then it's like, now you have to deal with it.
He's not the scheduled opponent.
Shouldn't he have to be the one who's strong enough to overcome it?
Well, if it was Dragon Hadrian versus Paradise Karen, Karen's dead. Bye.
After Dragon Hadrian had killed Paradise Karen, he'd simply retreated using his Gemini world. It had fallen to the on-site security to deal with his leftovers. It's kind of rude as potential future.
I'll be dying first. Give it your best.
I'll be dying last in the Gemini worlds. And even with 8 special officers, it had taken nearly an hour to finish the automatic. She remembered when the Arcana automatics had first appeared, shortly after the Revolution. They'd become stronger since then, but even at that time their survivability had been frustrating. No doubt Dragon Hadrian had decided it was more convenient to utilize the tower than destroy it. That disagreed with her. She found herself very much disliking the Hadrian boy. He had strength, to be sure, and the will to properly use it, but she didn't care for the direction that will seemed to be pointed in. He flaunted the principles of the supremacy at every turn, dancing around them and manipulating them however he pleased. He wasn't technically breaking any rules, but there were the rules of the Dawn contest, and there were the rules of the Shepherdess. It seems likely that Hadrian will make it to the end of the Dawn contest. It's impossible that he'll win, either, if his opponent or the heir aren't up to the attack.
Oh, sorry. It's possible, sorry.
It's possible that he'll win, too, if his opponent or the heir aren't up to the task. Even if someone else does take the throne, though. She glanced at the red-haired girl waiting by the door. I've already found my candidate. Even if she needs a little persuasion to come out of her shell. The shepherdess stabbed her finger down on the script in her lap, hitting the publish button. He hid. Back flat against the wall of the alley, the young man watched the distant sky above, using the esoteric, bulky binoculars he held in one hand. These things had been designed to lock onto and track the particular light signature produced by an individual's aether, recently developed by the Absurd Weapons Lab, and very difficult to get a hold of. Needless to say, his methods hadn't been quite legal. How much do we want to bet this is Winston? Place your bets. I'm betting this is Winston. It's Winston, or it could be Noel. It's one of those two. Can I lock in 2 answers?
We can lock in... No, because that... What do you mean you can lock in 2?
Fuck. Well, Noel would have access to the Absurd Weapons Lab, because she was with them. But I want to believe it's Winston.
Was she?
What color were Winston and Noel's aethers again?
Well, we'll see. We'll keep going.
We'll see. Oh, so it is one of them. Okay. There. He ducked down just a little more out of sight as he spotted it, just in case. Oh, it's a he. Okay, it's Winston. Sparks of blue in the sky high above. Not frequent enough to be called a trail, but just consistent enough to indicate an inclination. After leaving the arena of the Absolute, Dragon Hadrian was heading west then. Interesting. The young man had considered 337 locations where Hadrian might have had his true headquarters. The Tree of Might's temple was obviously a decoy, but this new piece of intelligence had just sheared that number down to a third. The day had been well spent. Even if he still needed to stay hidden for the time being, knowing where Dragon Hadrian was meant the young man knew where not to be. He didn't want a repeat of last time, after all. The slightest playful smirk curling his lips, there it is! Winston Grace stuffed the binoculars into his pockets and retreated into the streets, head down and hood up. Did I make you proud?
Yeah.
I did it. Oh my god, this next line. Sorry, I'm stupid. I read it like in the they ate. He ate. Even if this body of his didn't need sustenance anymore, taste wasn't something Wu Ming was yet ready to abandon. Even when he'd been alive, when he'd been alive the first time, food had always been more about taste than nutrition. He had several abilities he'd developed just based around cooking, after all. Well, 2 of them were also capable of setting enemies on fire, but that was a given when it came to Aether. The room was dark, illuminated only by the massive videograph on the wall. He'd tidy things up before they got back, but for now he was enjoying the video theater experience, even if the content was a little sad. He wasn't sad that Paradise Karen was dead, per se. They'd worked together many years, sure, but she'd also been very annoying. It was more the fact that he'd missed out on what was sure to be a fun fight. It had been one that had been perforating... Do you mean percolating?
Yeah, sorry.
It had been one that had been percolating for a while, too.
There's a fish in the percolator.
There you go. Percolating for a while, too. Deep down, Paradise Karen had always desired a chance to kill him. Nah, that chance would never come. Too bad, so sad. Still, maybe it was for the best. Paradise Karen had given off the same vibe as the Abyssal Knight, the feeling that she'd been infested. Wu Ming didn't like fighting against puppets. It was far too close to masturbation for his tastes. Right now, what he really wanted was to fight against the puppet master. He knelt. "That was magnificent, Lord Hadrian," said Xander Rain, his eyes turned down towards the ground. "Even I could not comprehend the form of your attack, yet the enemy stood no chance. Even a contender pales before your might." They'd made fucking Dick Rider. They'd made their true headquarters in
Lord Hadrian has yet to go all out.
They'd made their true headquarters in an ancient factory beneath the surface of the planet, where genetic monstrosities had once been forged en masse. Now, for the duration of the Dawn contest, it would be the temporary home of the Tree of Might. While the temple floated with a skeleton crew, drawing the attention of their enemies, they would make their true plans here in the shadows. And yet, they still saw fit to craft a throne for Dragon Hadrian, even if it was made of scrap metal. He guessed it wouldn't feel like home otherwise. "Rise," Dragon said from that very throne, waving a hand. "Your words are too kind." "Perhaps so," the woman called Violence said, standing with her arms crossed a short distance behind Rain. "If the tower hadn't..." Sorry, your little name's in the way. "If the tower hadn't been brought into the fight, mayhaps it wouldn't have been a victory. We are fortunate that was not the case." "There'd be rebellion there before long." Dragon glanced at her. Generally, he could get a sense from someone's intentions, from a combination of their facial expressions and voice, but that wasn't so easy with Violence. Her stern form meant that she didn't have a face to read, just the sight of her brain, visible along with the rest of the organs through the rest of her organs through her transparent skin. "Ah, but Vio!" The third branch wagged a... Wait, that's not Xander, is it?
No, he's
Who's
first.
the third branch?
Well, we're about to meet him.
"Ah, but Vio!" The third branch wagged a spindly finger. "Do not forget the final sword a warrior wields, Yes, their wits. Through cleverness and cunning did our lord achieve victory. It is not something to be scoffed at." The third branch... Wait, isn't their whole thing that they don't like all that stuff in the Tree of Might?
Well, they do like it a little bit. They like if you can win in a fight, basically.
Okay. The third branch of the Tree of Might, Tyr Masterman, was the very picture of an old dandy. A tartan scarf was wrapped around his neck, balanced atop a fluffy white long coat. His similarly white hair was curled within an inch of its life, and that included the 3 mustachios vertically stacked that covered his mouth. Dragon wasn't sure if that was a Skurin trait or the wonders of postmodernist hairdressing. Wow, that's a good line. That's not bad. "Scoff at our Zero branch? I would never," Violence scoffed. "I merely spoke carelessly. Forgive me, Lord. The sight of your battle made my blood flow overhot." She stepped before the throne, and, just as Xander had, dropped to one knee. Dragon waved his hand again. He was sure this was becoming quite a regal gesture. "You are forgiven, second branch. Battle makes barbarians of us all, but barbarians sometimes speak the most honest truth, do they not? Next time I fight, you will all witness my strength unbridled by tactic or deceit." An appreciative "ooh" waved through the gathered membership, but Violence just looked up from her kneeling position. "You say this, Lord," she replied, voice low, "but your next match will be a victory by default, is it not?" Masterman frowned. "Va? What is this?" His head snapped back to look at the 5th branch, the resident technical expert. How many branches they got on this tree?
6.
His head snapped back to look at the 5th branch. Does that count 0 or not?
That doesn't count 0. He's above everyone.
Okay, so there's 7 branches, technically.
Yeah, there's 6 actual branches, and then there's Dragon, is like, I'm in charge.
His head snapped back to look at the 5th branch, the resident technical expert. If Tyr Masterman's facial hair made him a strange sight, then the 5th branch, Amanda, didn't seem... Fuck you. No, go ahead. Explain that name to me.
That's her name. I don't know what you mean. Okay.
I think every Amanda in the world would kill you for that.
It's a different name. It's got the hyphens.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Didn't seem suited for the Tree of Might at all. Rather than bearing the figure of a strong warrior, she was a tiny green-haired woman with gleaming blue eyes and pointed ears. Elf? Is there an elf in the Tree of Might?
I guess there is. It's a Skurin.
She wore a dark blue jumper dress over a frilly white blouse and sat cross-legged atop a floating red pillow. To be frank, even given... This is some fucking anime-ass branch design. To be frank, even given her rank, she looked like she'd shatter into glass when faced with a stiff breeze. It didn't seem to bother her much. She just tapped away at the script balanced on her lap, her eyes steadily scanning the words. "The crown," she replied, voice breathy. "Although they were injured grievously in the King of Killers' attack, they survived the night. However, their condition is dire. There's a 9% chance they regain consciousness. Even if they do, there's only a 2% chance they make it to the next match. And please understand I'm rounding up there." Dragon nodded, his expression grave. "It saddens me that I won't be able to face the crown in combat, but we must keep our heads fixed on the direction of victory. The crown, skilled as they might have been... Is that Musashi? No, this is the guy who died in Musashi's fight. The crown, skilled as they might have been, were unable to defeat the King of Killers that I commanded. Would you admonish a king for refusing to duel one who had lost to their court jester?" Surprisingly, Violence nodded in agreement. "Just so," she said. "Strength through victory." "Strength through victory," Dragon echoed. "And as the wisdom of the Zero Branch has now been presented to us," she continued, "I wonder if we might discuss one of these court jesters of which you speak." She'd gotten him. Dragon had been surprised by the Tree of Might, to be perfectly honest. Given their reputation and the image they tried to portray, he'd expected a group of honorable muscleheads, easily led and manipulated. But any organization developed its own politics. Violence knew what kind of game Dragon was playing, and, to a certain extent, she was willing to play too. "You intrigue me, Second Branch," Dragon said, leaning back. "Elaborate." Violence continued to kneel, but when she spoke, the anger in her voice was obvious. "We have been slandered." "How so?" "That woman who came to speak with the First Branch before your match against him, Ray Rudicia. She has taken the truth we showed her and poisoned it with lies." For the first time in a while, Xander Rain spoke up, taking a step towards the throne. "Words are words, my lord," he said quietly. "I don't think it's anything to worry about." "Words are wounds, First Branch," Violence snapped. "Or have you forgotten the words of your father?" For a second, Dragon thought she might have gone too far, and even Violence herself seemed to stiffen up. When no response came from Xander, however, save for a saddened glance away, the Skirrent continued her proposal. "That was mean."
Yeah.
"I don't know, maybe we shouldn't..." "Your dad's dead! He hates you!" "Words are wounds," she repeated, quoting the previous First Branch. "A wound against the Tree of Might must be avenged. True retribution is not equal but overpowering. All of these things are known to be true, and in this case these precepts follow naturally after each other." Dragon raised an eyebrow. "You want to kill this woman?" "I want to teach her the error of her ways. In her article she writes, given the lackluster impression their current membership presents, it's obvious that the organization's glory days are long behind it. I want to show her what one of those glory days really looks like." So yes, she wanted to kill this woman. Dragon was just about to refuse when, unexpectedly, North spoke up from his position beside the throne. "You ask me?" he said, even though nobody was asking him. "You gotta respond to this, boss. You're the Zero Branch. Someone making the tree look bad is someone making you look bad. And if you're gonna be supreme, you can't have that, man. You gotta act. Violence's proposal sounds as good as anything else to me. Strength through victory, you know." Dragon narrowed his eyes
So
as he turned to look at North. What was the Umbrant playing at? He answered without words, without spoken words, at least. A tiny hologram, visible only to Dragon from this angle, floating right in front of his eyeball. Minuscule words traced in blue. "Ruth's group," they said. Dragon's lips curled into a slight smirk. "My advisor makes a good point, Second Branch. In accordance with the traditional ways of the tree, you may pursue vindication for the slander. Go alone, and go in strength." Violence's bow deepened. "Of course, my lord." Now there was little he had to worry about. If Ray Rudicia was being guarded by Ruth and the others, then the problem would soon solve itself. As the Second Branch of the Tree of Might, Violence was strong, to be sure. But not so strong that he could see Ruth Blaine losing. I feel the JJK influence very heavily. Nah, Ruth would win. I was surprised. I thought what you were angling for was Dragon would say, "I'll take care of it," and then use it as an excuse to see his friends. But he's just like, "Oh no, Ruth will kill him." Does he, like, not want to see them at all?
He is good adult.
This guy hates his friends. This is not my shonen protag. All right, what are we looking at here?
What do you mean?
Here we go. What percentage of... Oh, wait. There's no new Aether questions. I have no fun facts to ask you about.
Damn.
Come up with one, quickly.
You know, my phone is fucking ringing at the same time as well. What is this?
Sure it is.
Oh my god, it's a bad time to call. What the fuck is going on?
It's about what?
Give me a sec. Sorry. I just got off. Sorry.
He's so distressed. What happened?
I got a phone call, but I couldn't pick it up.
Don't pick it up. Who cares? It's recording time, baby.
Fun fact. So, the first Supreme, the way he died, was of old age, actually. If you didn't know.
Really?
Well, I don't know how you would know, because I just told you.
So did they have a dawn contest?
Yes.
Question. At his funeral, was everyone kneeling in respect?
They were. It was a day of mourning.
Was he, like, universally beloved, or was there, like, one guy or group who was like,
Inside
yeah,
the
fuck
supremacy,
his ass?
he was universally beloved. Outside, he was despised.
Really?
Yeah.
What did he do?
Well, he started the supremacy. And they were not popular with everyone else.
My impression was at the very beginning, during the Thousand Revolutions and after, everyone kind of got along until they started expanding.
Well, yeah, that's what they... Yeah, and he was the one who started that.
Ah. I see. I don't know why I ate Cheez-Its in the middle of recording. That was a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm not answering phone calls and you're eating Cheez-Its.
Sorry. Alright, well, thank you guys for
Still
watching. I can't stop. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.